Well, we should be back with audio at least. Now, these are not cheap Chinesium batteries. Proper Analoops. Still a little weird. Oh well. For some reason, every now and then I've found that OBS will just not pick up the wireless microphone. It sees it, but it doesn't hear it, which is completely useless. This is not going to be as smooth as the one we did the other day, which of course was the 1270, whatever it was. The 1278? I can't remember already. Enough that the gravity draws it off. Yeah, I see where the liquid damage went. Yep, there's the damage. Which is interesting because it's the numeric keys that are faulty on this one. The numbers don't come up, but the liquid is down here by the option key or something. Yeah, the direction keys. Video's stuttering a bit. I'm not expecting anything now. It's pretty much on track now. Alrighty, now we've got the really hilariously fun, not so fun part, which is all the screws for these 1466s. Now, at least the 1270s, 1270s, 1286s, things like that, they're all screws. So, yeah, it's a long process, but at least they're all screws. Whereas with these 1466s, you've got the outer perimeter, which are screws, and then all the inner parts are rivets. And sometimes, every now and then, you'll get lucky, and when you do the extraction of this, all the rivets come out clean. It doesn't happen that often. Most of the time, you're left with a few that just won't let go. And then you have to go in and grab them with the side cutters. And if that doesn't work, then you have to drill and tap, which is really no fun at all. And you can't just leave one or two. You might think, oh, it's only one out of a couple of hundred, so it's not going to matter. But you really do notice if you don't get them all, there'll be like a soggy, there'll be an area on the keyboard which doesn't feel right. So yeah, unfortunately, you got to get every single one of them right. Hello, Govid. I thought I'd get this out of the way because the whole Christmas slowdown is coming, or rather is here already. So I'm I am trying to get all the jobs I can out of my queue. Make sure I get paid. Because for the next 2 weeks after Christmas, or even next 4 weeks, you don't really get a lot of income rolling in, so you tend to have to start drawing on your savings. So you try to bolster things up as quick as possible before Christmas. the other thing is, of course, is, you know, the other businesses, they're all away on holidays or they're closed, or, yeah, people just generally aren't that responsive around this time of the year, and understandably so. Hey, John. Alright. Well, there's no graceful way of doing this, really, other than just yanking it up. Come on. I try to roll it up once I get my starter. Here we go. Okay, I've got the starter. Wow, this one's a toughie. Yeah, this is a tough one. This is going to be a 90% stuck rivets one. Yeah, yep, almost all the rivets are stuck in that one. Damn, what a pain. It's going to be a long night. A long night. I can see some more areas where the liquid damage is. Look at all this here. Okay, that makes more sense than to knock out the numbers. Looks like I can't put that cloth down, which is a shame. I wanted that there because I want to try and protect the area. So we do have a replacement. Okay. Yeah, this is going to be really annoying. In fact, out of all of those, I think I've got 1, 2, 3. 2 rivets came out. The rest are stuck in there. Damn. That's really bad. That's probably the worst I've ever had. Nothing much you can do except just go through and take them out one by one. This is going to be slow. Yeah. And you just got to get the right feel for it. You got to know how much pressure to put on the side cutters, the twist, and yeah, it's a fine balance, because if you put too much pressure on the grip, you'll cut through the rivet. But if you don't put enough, you're not going to lift it out. I find usually if you can twist it a little bit, like that. Oh, great! The one time see, now I've made it hard for myself because the rivet has edge. Ah! Oh, got that one. So yeah, it's the sort of thing where you want to get it right the first time. And this is why it costs a fair bit to get a keyboard replaced, even though the keyboard's only $30 on eBay. It's like, yeah, $30 for the keyboard, and then lots of money for the labor involved. Yeah, the later ones I don't even do, Pedro, because of that, and you know that anyway. But this one was particularly bad in terms of not coming out. Can't believe it, only 2 rivets came out. Fortunately, in most cases, I get the reverse situation where I have basically 2 rivets left, and then most of them come out. So this is the extreme, the opposite end of the spectrum. like I said, if you can get a feel for it, it's not so bad, but yeah. Ach, nee, man. What are you doing? Ooh, close. Riveting content, oh my goodness. It's like the comments. So these sort are not too bad, but then every now and then you're going to start running into like these standoffs and keying guides, and trying to get the rivets out around those is more difficult because you can't get right into the back corner of the cutters. So we'll leave them to last. Ugh. And of course, speaking of long repetitious things, I set up 6 fencing posts today. I'm kind of cheating these days. I don't bother doing a dry mix with cement anymore and then tamping it. I cheat, and I just buy myself a 20 kilo bag of rapid set post mix and things like that. I stick the post in, get it lined up, drop that bag of rapid mix in there, then drop a couple of litres of water on top and walk away. Fortunately, it only takes 1 bag per post for the fencing I do. Like, I start out with 100mm diameter treated log posts, and I've got a post hole digger, and the post hole digger is about 150mm diameter. So it works out pretty good. It's not the strongest combination. Ideally you should have something like a 250mm diameter hole for a 100mm, or at least a 200mm hole for a 100mm post. But this is sort of temporary kind of thing, and it'll be fine. It's only holding up mesh fence, so the load isn't quite as severe as if it was trying to hold up, say, picket fence or anything like that. Have you tried Nipex parallel pliers on the rivet set? No, I haven't. These work perfectly fine. These are nice, because they bite in. I do have the Nipex pliers, but I've never had that much trouble with these pliers here. Trying to say, these are Nipex anyway. It's just one of those practice things. You just got to get the feel for it. Once you got the feel for it, you'll have a couple of duds here and there, but overall it's just a slow progress thing. I think getting it to bite in and then twisting it so you can sort of break the grip on the metal to metal grip in the rivet hole, that's the key part. If you think this is riveting, wait until you got to put the screws back in. Because obviously there's no thread in those holes. So you have to have your torque and pressure just right so that you can cut a thread at the same time. Do a lever when you pull. That is what I'm doing. You probably can't see it, but basically I twist and then it sort of like pitches, and that levers it out. So it's okay, folks. I've only done a couple of dozen of these. Phew, that one came out easy. Thank goodness for that. That one there is usually the biggest trouble. This one's the second biggest trouble. And that one is out. Oop, forgot one there. Yeah, I think that's everything. Right, now we've got to clean up a bit of that mess. We don't want to leave that there when we put the new keyboard on. Looks like puke or something. I hope it's not puke. Please don't be puke. Hey, Mr. Howe. I was wondering where you were. I thought maybe I was a little bit early for you. Though unfortunately I didn't really have a lot of choice. I need to get this done, so the show had to go on. Welcome. I'm just a little focused here at the moment. Okie dokie. By the way, these particular Nipex ones, they're the flush cut, they're not their beveled cut. I don't think you'd want to try with a bevel cut pair. Like a bevel cut pair, they basically, it would keep the biting edge a little bit raised above the surface of the keyboard, and that would more than likely result in the rivets tearing rather than coming out. So yeah, you want the flush cut, not the bevel cut. Let's see if that test fit works. It's going to suck if I've got the wrong keyboard here. And by suck I mean I'm going to go insane. Okay. No, it looks like we're good. Yep. Okay. Normally I prefer to start in the center and work my way out spiral wise, but we do have the screws for the perimeter, so I'm actually going to put them in just so that I can hold the keyboard. And it should hold the keyboard fairly central. We'll have a check after we put in a couple. Mr. Howe, you've got a bit of a problem with the PayPal, have you? I will check that in a second. Let me just get some screws in. I really do need to get around to making a announcement module or something that can check for when those things arrive. And that way I can actually make a nice big announcement and everybody can appreciate what's been done. Sadly, I must admit, I've been focusing quite strongly on the file format decoding lately. Okay, let's just have a look at this keyboard and see how it's lining up. It's looking pretty good. Yep. Then we go check out PayPal. See what Santa has arrived early. Once again, Mr. Howe, thank you very much. Paul Howe's just sent through $100.89. And as always, that goes pretty much straight into the kitty cat's kitty. Oh man, they've been a little bit naughty lately. They've been not really always eating their food properly, or they're wasting their food. We're having a bit of a challenge with them. And the fencing I'm doing at the moment is to give the wildlings a little bit more area. Poor old Simba, he is the pseudo alpha male ginger of the wildlings, of the 4 of them. He got himself into a fight, I think Monday morning it was, and it was a bit unfortunate. He had multiple puncture wounds on his front legs. He's bleeding from them. He's okay now, or at least he seems okay. I'm obviously on the constant watch, make sure he doesn't develop an infection or get unwell or anything like that. But yeah, it was a bit of a very sad sight to wake up to on Monday morning, go out there, and I could tell immediately when I looked at him something wasn't quite right. And sure enough, when he sat up to say good morning sort of thing, you could, see all the blood on his arms and the puncture wounds and all that stuff. So it was like, it genuinely made me feel quite nauseated and made me cry a bit, because the nausea was not from the sight of it so directly, but rather just because of the poor guy. He really isn't looking for a fight, but he ends up in fights because this other cat that roams around picks on him. And it's nauseating as well, because I'm thinking you can easily catch something. FIV, or feline immunovirus, is fairly prevalent around here, and we know of quite a few that have succumbed to that. A couple just with us, and not our internal ones, but the ones we've been trying to look after on the outside. So yeah, it's just the sort of thing that fills you with dread and worry. Paul, are you doing much for yourself this Christmas? I know it's are you going off to family or anything like that? I'm busy trying to do up the house. I've got a vanity unit to install. I've got to replace the toilet. I've got to put down some tiles underneath the vanity unit, because when we took away the old vanity unit, there was no tiles under there, which I understand. But I do generally prefer bathrooms or kitchens too, by the way, where they fully tile the floor, then put the vanity or cupboards in and things like that, rather than not tiling where those cupboards and vanities are going to go. I get it, it's an exercise in saving some money, but the trouble is it almost always becomes a problem in the future. Hey, Sabermetric, stuff all. Well, that's actually a good thing. My favourite kind of Christmas and birthday is when nothing happens, when it's just a nice quiet day. It's kind of funny how things change as you get older and life changes. You go from wanting this great big event to just simply wanting tranquility, a bit of time to not have to worry about so many things. But in fairness, as a kid, you don't have the power to pay yourself any. You don't have the power to generate so much money. Although these days it's a bit different with social media and things like that. You can create your own social media YouTube channel and haul in a big bunch of cash. But overall, as a general rule, you know, you're a bit powerless as a kid, and you're very much depending on your parents and family to provide you with things to satisfy your curiosities and such. Hey, blind bodger. And so it's understandable that it's a big event for you as a kid, because it's like you basically have your birthday and you have Christmas, and that's it. Twice a year. Can you imagine if people were only allowed to buy themselves something twice a year? Mr. Bodger, haven't missed too much. I was just talking about, I've got all the posts in, well actually no I haven't, I've got one post to go for the fence. And that's because I haven't made the gate yet. So I need to put in another post in between the two 2400 separated posts, but I've got to build a gate to fit that. So it's kind of easier in many ways for me to build the gate first and then set the post in to match the gate rather than the other way around. Alright, now we have to put in all these screws. Yeah, it's getting there. It's pretty quick going. Like I said, it's a lot easier with using the postcrete, the pre-mixed concrete, cement rather, no, concrete. You just drop it into the hole dry once the post is in there and throw a couple of litres of water on it and you're good to go. For some reason I do find reverse spinning these screws before driving them helps. I think it might be, polishes off the front edge of the thread or something, I don't know. But I just generally have a better success if I backspin them and then forward fins. So backspin and then drive just seems to work better for me. Yeah, I was just saying about his. Okay, he was playing today, running around, being an idiot as usual. But I'm going to give it a week before I can let my guard down, I think. Cruel, the fact that he hasn't shown signs of infection and there's no excess swelling and things like that, that causes me concern as well. Because I'm thinking you really should have had some reaction to, or at least I think you should have had some reaction to that. So I'll keep an eye on him. It could simply be because it was likely the same cat that he had a fight with as all the other times. It may be that his body recognizes or can already very quickly handle what the other cat has. And it may have been a case of the other cat just simply didn't have sufficiently dirty claws or teeth or whatever at this particular instance. Not that I want to let my guard down too soon. It probably helped that he bled out. The wounds bled enough. That probably helps, flush out a lot of the stuff that normally would give a lot of grief. Particularly with puncture wounds. Ah, man, they're so bad. Anyway, as you know, I will keep a very close eye on him. Hey laptop, yeah, I'm sorry, you probably didn't get a notification because I basically, even though this was a scheduled stream, I essentially just jumped straight into it. Ach, niemand. vast it. I have no idea where that screw went. Off into the Netherlands. Okay, we're getting to the point now where we're going to have screws next to each other going in, so I don't need to be subdividing the spaces so much anymore. You're one screw short on your MacBook Pro. How did you manage that? How did you lose that one? Do you know which screw it is? Or what sort of screw it is? The little screws, like the flat ones that hold your USB-C connector in, the retainer plate, those sort of ones can vanish real quick. It's probably attached itself to the magnet on the speaker. I frequently get machines in here that have been disassembled before and there's screws missing and they're attached to the magnet for those speakers. Those speakers on the 2141s, the 1990s, they are very good at capturing screwdrivers and things like that and causing the speakers to get damaged if you get too close to them. They're kind of like a bit like an MRI machine, small scale. You bring anything metallic too close and zoom, they'll take it. Like Giston Primus, or was it Primus? Checked all the board speakers over, nowhere to find. Hopefully it's not in the clutch cover. I think that's probably the most fearful spot to have them go, is down into this sort of area. And then you find out when you close the lid and you hear, and you're like, no! Hey, Mr. Boss. I see you hanging around every now and then. Come on, come on, come on. It's nice, dreary work. So this is really what 99% of tech work is, isn't it? It's either doing 150 screws on a MacBook keyboard or sitting there waiting for someone to read to you everything that's on the screen so that you can tell them to click on a certain button. And then of course they use the wrong mouse button click. And then you've got to explain to them what the difference between left and right mouse click is, and yep. IT tech support can be hilariously fun over the phone. Oh god. Back in the 90s when my hearing wasn't too bad, you know, just be part of my job amongst other things. And the number of times you just want to throw that headset across the room. You find out that everything could have happened so much quicker if they had revealed to you a small piece of information, or it's something that you had asked them originally, but they were too flustered at the time and you couldn't convey what you were wanting from them. I think that's half the problem too, is trying to get the person on the other end of the phone to calm down enough that you can engage in the diagnostic process. A lot of the time you'll get people immediately saying, I'm too stupid, or I don't know what I'm doing, and it's like, that's fine, you know, it's like, that's why we've got tech support here. But then they're sort of like a drowning person flailing and you're trying to save them, but they do their very best unintentionally to drown you with them. So you're trying to part of the job being IT support is getting people to calm down. Particularly if they've lost a file. Oh my goodness, if they've lost a file or an email and it's an important one, you can just hear that panic come through the phone. 99% of the time they haven't lost it. It usually just got saved into the wrong folder because they saved something else previously into a different folder, stuff like that. But yeah, getting them to calm down, big number one part of the job. Left a floppy in the... Oh my goodness. Why every single morning? Because they kept leaving... Oh wow, okay. That can be frustrating. We had the classic one of... We had these remote servers out in the Namibian desert. And for some reason, almost every day, at a certain time, they would go offline and come back, and the uptime had been reset. So basically, they had powered cycled. It turns out it was the cleaning person. And that, I believe, is not an uncommon thing to happen. I believe there's quite a few other people who've reported similar. Because a lot of the time, this sort of equipment would be just in someone's random office. They don't have dedicated office for a dedicated room for server equipment. You don't have key access controlled area. It's just a case of you've got this small form factor PC just jammed in the back corner somewhere, hanging off a normal PowerPoint. And the person who normally is in that office knows not to mess with it, but everybody else, it's just another machine that's sitting there. Doing good sorting out. Oh yeah, you're doing... Are you using like just a search filter or something like that to find the manufacturer name in the files and sort them like that? I hope... Yeah, we've got, 2 or 3 big resource archives now. And there's probably about 80-90% commonality between them. So I'm hoping over time everything will just merge together and we'll have everything we need all in one more centralized location. I think the scary part is going to be, once that's sorted out, the mass of demand in data capacity across the connection is going to be crazy. Hey, on stage? Still waiting to use your Flexboard view for real? Wow. How long have you had it now? Man, that's disappointing to have bought the software and still not actually used it proper. Let's see. I think we're good. Oh, wait. Nope. There's one there. Cyrillic. Okay, yeah. That's going to be tough. And they pretty much will have to be converted to Latin, or English, Latin type thing. And the other thing, of course, is stripping away all the meaningless, pointless stuff that's been attached to them. I guess sometimes you simply have no choice but to sit down and manually process these things. Sometimes there's just no effective algorithmic way, and you're just going to have to sit down and bit by bit do it. It's a little bit tricky. There's junk on here, but I can't really clean it up without smearing it more. I'll try to blast it with air, but I don't think it's going to dislodge it. Do a lot of consoles. Well, with the new XZZ stuff coming out, we've got the Switch, the Xbox, the PS5. They're all available now. The only trouble is with a lot of those ones, they are not actually manufacturer original boards. They're just generated boards, and subsequently they don't have proper network names. So it can be a little bit confusing. Likewise, they don't even have proper part names. If we've got schematics, like proper manufacturer schematics, then we can actually update the board view to suit. There'll be a bunch of parts that you won't be able to deduce without some level of ambiguity. But yeah, big things you should be able to. And then once you can work out the big ones, that can resolve most of the network names, particularly if you say work on the CPU and you just go through and you match the network names off each of the pins of the CPU, then that gets a large portion of your board view network sorted out. Then what you do is you attack the connectors. And so between the CPU and the connectors, you get a very good portion of the data. The masking tape trick worked quite well then. It got the worst of it off. Okay, now I've got to remember which way I'm... Yep, that's right. These are never going to stick down quite as good as what they were originally, but as long as you haven't diluted the adhesive too much, or with like IPA or anything like that, then it should still be a pretty good job. Yeah, the whole file naming thing, it's probably something that the community is good on, for the community to try and do. So everybody does a couple of files, or whichever ones they run into, renames them accordingly. But then the problem is, how do you coordinate all that? Okay, I think we can start putting this back together, and then we can do the testing. It's interesting on stage. I mean, yeah, I know what you mean about with oscilloscopes or DSOs or whatever, right? Well, you've all seen I barely use mine. If I've got to bring out the oscilloscope, things have become really desperate for me. But on the other hand, like Flexboard View for me is multi-daily sort of thing. So yeah, everybody's got their different work cases. Hopefully it does come in good use to you. I prefer people to have invested money into the software and actually get a return on that investment. That said, I was left somewhat spewing the other day when I see that software like Repair Shopper and whatever, it's $140 a month for that. So basically it's like buying a copy of Flexboard View every single month, and you don't even get to own it outright. And then people complain about the cost of Flexboard View, and it's like, what the hell? Yeah, this is the thing. When people say to me, you should have a lower price so you get more customers and things like that, it's like, it doesn't really matter what price I pick for the most part. There's always going to be people who think it should be cheaper, and there's always going to be people who think it should be a lot more expensive. What you have to do is find a price that you're happy with, and hopefully the sales are enough for what you need. There's always going to be someone who says, oh no, you should do this, some guru who it doesn't really matter. Every now and then you will get someone who actually can offer some genuine advice, and you can usually tell the difference in the way they deliver that advice. Well, on stage, the thing with Flexboard View now, this is the other thing, and that's a marketing thing for me. A lot of people do think that Flexboard View is Mac, but really it's everything. It's just a case of it was spawned through using it for Macs. But basically, if you have a board view for something, then there you go, flex board view you can use. So PC laptops, iPhones, iPads, especially now, like I said, with the new data that we're getting out of XCZ, definitely. I mean, like iPads, iPhones, no trouble now. But that's a marketing thing for me, along with the fact that I have to try and remind people that you don't actually have to subscribe to software. You can, own it outright like we used to. Certainly trying to find more MacBook business is always good though, because really Macs I find are easier to repair as a general rule. Mostly because they're very similar to each other within a given group, so to speak. Given like the 1466, the 1502, the 1398, all of them in that era. If you know how to deal with the faults with one of them, you pretty much can work out the faults with all of them in that era. Whereas PC laptops, if you do work on those, I think for them, and I think this goes for consoles as well, you kind of want to get a mass repair lot of the same type. So you learn the faults for that particular machine, and you just deal with a lot of them, all of the same kind of machine. Yeah, the availability of the files is something that we're working on, like I said, with Gear here and a few others. We're all working on getting these files out. The fact that there's no central repository is a bit of a problem, but unfortunately that's more of a legal rather than a technical issue. Like if you go along and say, hey everybody, I've got all the board view files here, then you can pretty much expect to receive a notice of sort that you don't want within a day or so. Okay, how the hell has this happened? I've got 2 cheese heads. Not sure why I've got a second cheese head there. There should only be 1 cheese head screw in this machine. Like consoles are common in few more. Yeah, it's a similar sort of idea there. Like you know that your Xbox Series S or X or whatever, there's not 1,000 different models of them, although there are multiple variants within them. But yeah, I get your point. There's only like 5 or 6 different consoles that you're going to be working on. And we do have the switchboard views, by the way. Name it to Flexboard Universal more than Max. Well, I guess it's sort of like I said, it comes down to the marketing thing there. Because I've never actually said for Max in the first place. It's just that kind of stemmed from the Rossmann era. It's kind of sad that I have to say Rossmann era, just indicating that it's kind of like a bygone one now. Okay, well, good that you found the Switch ones. Yeah, I think they were posted up on Bad Caps as well. I'm hoping now, Joe, with the whole XZZ thing, that it will just become sort of a background knowledge, so to speak, that it works for everything. I might say do the initial blurb of Flex Board View on the website and simply say the board view for everything. Something like that. What the hell? I've got a couple of machines worth of screws in here. I think I've taken a few out of my test chassis. I think because when I was testing to see whether the keyboard was at fault or whether the logic board was at fault, and that's how we got the mixer. And that's why I've got 2 cheese heads in here. Okay. Yeah, I saw Tim Herman's announced his stepping away. Okay, we're going to plug in our tester because we've got our keyboard tester in this one. And let's see, I do need my MagSafe 2 cable. Hey, Dave Willits, welcome. Yeah, see, Tim's moved to Meat Tech, as you said, yes. Okay, let's press the Option key. Oh, it's good to hear that. Wait, that went straight to standard boot. Alright, now I'm a little terrified. Did I actually plug the keyboard in properly? Have I got... Come on. There's nothing to say that this keyboard was actually fully functional. I mean, it could be a dud keyboard. Hey, Rilla. Ach, nee, man. Don't know what this thing's doing. It's just... okay, it is. Oh no, you gotta be kidding me. I've got no keyboard activity. Nothing at all. Like before I had some, now I've got none. Oh, that's just brilliant. I don't even have trackpad. That makes me think I've not plugged a cable in? What the hell? Cable's plugged in. How can I go from a couple to none? I didn't see anything wrong with that keyboard. Not that it is a guarantee of anything by any means. Ah. Okay, well, that kind of explains a couple of things. How did that not get plugged in properly? I could have sworn that... Unless that slipped underneath. This is one of the bad areas on this particular model, is the keyboard flex has to be like tucked in under itself. So you have to flip it over. You can barely see what you're doing. Okay, that is definitely in, but it does feel sloppy, I gotta admit. That is not locking at all. Is the problem here that that doesn't have a backing? Okay, it might be that it doesn't have a backing plastic on it. That is really weird. It's like it's too thin and it's not being gripped. So as an example, you see this has got the backing plastic. Just zoom out a little bit. Yeah, that is missing the adhesive. This bluish. Oh man. Okay, so you've got to go on the underside. Yeah, okay. It's basically got to stick on this side. What a pain. This is why this is why it gets real frustrating getting third-party stuff. And I have a feeling it's probably not even going to be thick enough. Yeah, that doesn't feel like it's going to be thick enough. That's just a sticker. We need a whole stiffener back and everything. Oh man. I've got some really thin plastic I can use. Just gotta get another glove. Yep, this is the sort of stuff that drives you mad. And people in retrospect will sort of go, well, you should have tested that before you fitted it. And it's like, you can't test for everything. Yes, there's a certain amount of inferred faith that you have to have in what you're buying as parts. You can't go and do a full test on everything, and sometimes it's not even practical. Oh, you should have tested it. I'm just trying to find a suitable piece of plastic. I've got plenty of plastic sheets and stuff around here. It's not going to need a lot, but it does have to be the right sort of thickness. Oh, it feels like that's probably going to be a bit thin. Certainly does not help that I have to backfold this, and because of that I can't really tell what I'm doing half the time. Just trying to see if I can get a gauge on whether it can jam or not. Like if I stick that in there, will it lock? Barely, it's not really enough. Let's try this stuff. This is definitely a thicker gauge. What we'll do is we'll start out by cutting it about the right width. Who's being rude, Teresa? The cable indeed, I agree. Now I can see there are those locking notches, but they actually don't come into play with this particular connector. Okay, it's not perfect, but that's not bad. Let's see if it can go in and lock. It's certainly inhibiting me from pushing it in now without releasing the tab. Okay. Let's lock the tab. Let's see how that goes. Okay, so it was this piece of plastic that came off the back of an iPhone screen. Yeah, I suppose we could just take the whole thing out and put another one in. No! Come on. Come on, give me a boot options rather than booting into the Apple logo, please. Oh, yes. Alright. The fact that that came up when I was holding the option key means we are in luck. And the cap lights is on now too. Whew. That was close. Dab of hot glue. Oh, you mean like to lock it into place now? It should actually be pretty good because at this point now, because this stuff, it's got like an adhesive on it, and I'll put that up against the cable. It shouldn't go anywhere now. We're just waiting for it to boot into my test system so that I can then do the keyboard test. Oh no, you're kidding me. Wow. Come on, don't be like that. That's a real concern though. Because now, is it running in EFI mode but not in macOS mode, which is a problem. If I boot into Ubuntu and it works, or in fact if I reboot and it gives me the options again, then we've got a secondary issue at hand. Which means basically all of my hard work is for nothing. Which wouldn't be the first time. I mean, the keyboard was definitely faulty, there's no question about that. Hey Tom Morgan, how's it going with your dual lights? Like the on-off button just worked. Oh Mo! What are you doing, buddy? Where are you? Yeah, so like that's working. I just need to find my Ubuntu stick. I have a feeling that we have the dreaded SPI versus USB mode issue. Where's that Milo? What are you doing, buddy? You can stay out there for a bit. Yeah, we got 2 of them now, Tom. Can't believe that. Thank goodness that person kept the existing package. All the keys work fine here. Okay, that's weird. That should give me that as a boot option. At least if it is a mainboard issue, what I can do is simply just replace their mainboard. I mean, it's a 1466. I've got a few spares, so, you know, it's not a big issue. Weird. Why is it asking for my Wi-Fi? Yeah, they can be bright. Usually I run mine at around about 80% of brightness, which is actually fairly close to it. Perception-wise, it's fairly close to full brightness. But of course you don't get all the heat. Like if you run it at full brightness, they do get warm. I mean, it's to be expected. Like the stage lights that I use here, if I run them at 100%, a couple of times they will actually shut off because they're too hot. And they've got an active fan running them and everything. The other possibility here is that maybe the SPI pins or the pins that we need, maybe they're not contacting properly. We're just gonna try 60%. That's pretty good actually. I am hoping that once I get myself a new microscope camera, that I'll be able to turn it right down, because I certainly find that when I'm doing diagnostic work, I don't like it as bright as what the microscope camera wants it to be. Yeah, I mean, the one key is definitely working here, so the keys are working fine. Oh yeah, much easier to see crack caps, yeah. I find the fact that it has the broader spectrum light helps quite a bit. There is that little bit of... if there's one negative thing for me to say about the ring light, is that it can feel a little bit washed out when you are running on a fairly bright level and you're looking at the board directly planar flat. But that's why I feel like it's nicer if the microscope camera was a little bit more sensitive and I can back it down to like the 60%, 70% that you're talking about, because then the color returns into the board. Oh, please work. It could actually be a bad trackpad too, because that is one thing I didn't cross over to check. Although, again, the keyboard was definitely bad. Yeah, we definitely do not have response there. Interesting, we do have the on-off button. Okay, so what I'm going to do here is try a different trackpad. Desperate hope that it's that. And if it is, great, you know, I'll just swap the trackpad out, no biggie. But again, this job is now sucking up a lot more time than what I really would like to spend. I mean, it's a 1466. I'm already running these 1466 repairs at a cheaper price, as it were. It's not unreasonable to consider the possibility that if there was liquid damage, actually that didn't quite feel like it was sitting in properly, to be honest. I mean, it was close. It's certainly, it's locked in there. Yeah, it's not moving when it's in there. I'll just try that boot once more. Yeah, maybe it wasn't sitting perfectly right. It'd be nice not to have to replace the trackpad. Is that a hey?
Hey, Belle's on the roof.
Who? Belle, yeah.
And she's looking to get down.
Alright then, okay, I'll come on out. Alright. I'm gonna have to cancel on here. I've got